Well, now we're going to turn to one of my favorite technologies, another new emerging technology that's getting a lot of splash, and that's hydrogen. And we've got a great panel today, and I had the good fortune in the first round of the Carbon Free Technology Initiative, which we talked about earlier, to lead a work group on hydrogen and low carbon fuels. But I'm far from an expert on that. Luckily, we now have an expert on that at EEI, and she's going to help us unpack this issue. So I'd like to welcome Sandy Safro, our Assistant General Counsel, Energy and Technology Regulation, coming up to the stage to moderate a discussion with Emily Duncan, the Vice President of Government Relations at National Grid, on how we can unlock hydrogen's potential both within the industry and to help us, as we talked about earlier, potentially electrify other sectors. So Sandy and Emily, please come on up and look forward to our discussion.
So pleased to be here with you all today and to be joined by Emily Duncan, who, as Eric mentioned, is Vice President of Government Relations at National Grid. Emily and I are going to be talking this afternoon about unlocking hydrogen's potential. Hydrogen is a topic that we've talked about already a lot during this afternoon, and it is an energy commodity that we've talked about quite a bit in this country in the past. And so as the news cycle in the trade press and then the mainstream media started to pick up on hydrogen in 2019 and 2020, there were a lot of folks who asked, what's different this time around? And the answer, it turns out, is quite a lot. We are now, of course, looking at not only company and country-specific emissions targets, emissions reductions targets, but also global goals on that front as well. We are also looking at international efforts to advance technology through MOUs and bilateral agreements, and the emergence of the nascent phases of a global hydrogen market, which is incredibly exciting to be seeing develop. And then critically, in addition, we are also seeing tens of billions of dollars in support for hydrogen from countries around the world. And the United States is, of course, among one of those countries. The $1.3 trillion infrastructure investment and Jobs Act included $8
Let's
billion
talk flow real quick. This is Mark
for
Berry.
development
Mark's from
of
Southern Company, heads up their R&D team.
hydrogen, clean regional hydrogen
I know.
hubs. Hubs are a very interesting
bringing the Georgia
concept
charm, which
and
I left at home. I'm from Atlanta myself. But
for a number of
so
emerging energy
let's walk up
technologies,
together. I'm
including
going to say a
hydrogen,
couple quick intro
because the
remarks,
idea
show
is
video,
co-locating
interview you,
supply and demand
and then I'm going
in
to switch
close
gears
proximity,
and start
which
and
can
introduce
drive
the
markets.
industrial
It can
decarbonization.
create
These are two
efficiency
sessions
and
that got kind of
ultimately
stitched together
bring
because
down
Forum
costs
couldn't
as
make
well.
it.
The
So
U.S. Department
I'll
of
interview
Energy,
you,
which is
and then I'll say
the
I'll applaud.
the federal government
we'll do a
agency
round
with
of applause,
responsibility
and then I'll
for
say now we're going to
implementing
switch
the
gears to the
IIJA
industrial
Hydrogen Hubs
decarbonization
program, issued a notice of
and invite
intent
John
for the
up so you
program
guys
about
can
2 weeks
sort
ago.
of switch.
The NOI outlines
so you want me to
DOE's
leave?
expectations for
Yeah,
the ultimate
unless you want to. I
funding
mean, we didn't plan it
opportunities
that way to have you. I
later
love
in
your
the summer
perspective
or
on
in the
industrial
early fall.
decarbonization.
And the NOI
we'll do
also
them in
outlines
sequence.
DOE's
And then, John, when
expectations
you
for
come
the
up,
overall
I'm just going to say
program.
a couple introductory remarks.
Thus far,
about the
nearly
sort of
20
size and
potential
prize of
hub
industrial
plans or
decarbonization,
alliances have been announced in the
share
United
a
States,
video
and
of our
these
other
span
portfolio company, Boston
regions
Metal.
across the country.
And then
Importantly,
as
in
that, when that wraps
IIJA,
up, we go
Congress
right
also
into sort of an interview
required
format,
geographic
with
and
the questions
fuel
that I
or
sent out.
production pathway diversity among
Sound good?
the hubs that are ultimately
All right.
selected. Now, how hydrogen hubs develop, whether they're funded by DOE or otherwise, is going to vary across the United States depending on what the area's geology is and the existing resources, both in terms of natural resources and in terms of existing infrastructure. So individual hubs could include elements of carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, renewable energy, nuclear resources, new pipelines, maybe new storage,
exactly.
maybe
It's the best
something
kind of
we're
hub.
not even thinking
Put
of on
volume
this
through
list,
the
and really
system
honestly
like that.
maybe all of the above in an individual hub. So as we'll hear more about from Emily, one of the hub alliances that has been announced is the New York Hub Alliance, which is comprised of multiple states and numerous partners, including National Grid.
Yeah, exactly.
In addition, while DOE hubs are going to be important and
So
of course hold
whereabouts
the
in Atlanta
promise
are you?
of really catalyzing the industry, companies are also pursuing separate hydrogen
My wife and I
projects
live
and
in Ponce
activities
Island.
to support their growth into the
1.5
energy
east of
economy
Georgia
of the
Power
future.
headquarters.
So Emily, I think that's maybe a good place for us to start and for me to stop talking is to ask you if you can tell
So
us
is that
more
where you're
about
from?
what National
That's
Grid's
what you-
efforts
Well,
are
that-
and what your
that was- I
plans
grew
are,
up
sorry,
about
how
5
those
miles
plans
north
for
of there
hydrogen
in
fit
East
into
Buckhead.
the company's
Oh,
overall
okay,
strategy.
yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for
parents
having
now
me.
live on the
I'm
Georgia
thrilled to be
Power
here. I was
Lake,
joking with
and,
Sandy in
which
the
one?
back room
Big
that
Redmond.
I was here a few months ago at Disney World with my
used to be
kids, and this is a
responsible
lot
for the
less
lakes.
stressful, so I'm really thrilled to be here without them.
Beautiful area,
I love my kids, but it's great to have a break. So hydrogen. So, it's funny, I've been doing this work in Washington for a while now, and there tends to be these
My
buzzwords
parents
that kind of
bought
rise up,
their,
out of the
house
ether
up there
periodically. Transmission's
when I
been a
was
big
maybe a
one for the
junior
past few
in high
years, but
school.
I've noticed in the
So,
last 18 months or
not as a
so,
young
hydrogen,
child,
right?
I wasn't
Everybody's
up there
talking about
back then.
hydrogen. And people have
started
been
going out
toiling
there
away in
and
hydrogen for a
watching,
very
now
long
my
time.
parents
It's
are
not to say
retired
that,
full-time.
we've just discovered this, right?
so
But,
all the family
but it's,
stuff, y'all go
I
to,
do kind of feel
Yeah,
like the
we tried
policy
to.
is starting
The
to meet
problem
the
is my
moment,
wife
if you
and I,
will, and so it's a really
now have a
exciting time
2-year-old and
to
a
be a part of it.
4-month-old at home.
And so
we're
National
now
Grid a couple of
traveling
months
even
ago
up to the
announced our
lake
clean
with
heat
them
vision,
and finding a place for
which
everybody
hydrogen
to
plays a
sleep
pivotal
is,
role in. And so we really have kind of
challenging,
4
so they
pillars
have
of
to
work that we're
really
looking at as
I
part of this
understand.
overall clean heat vision. And really what our ambition is to have a fossil-free distribution network in the Northeast, in the states in which we operate, in Massachusetts and New York. And these 4 pillars will help us get there. The first one is energy efficiency, right? We have to start there. We've got to close that building envelope, and virtually every building in the Northeast needs to be touched, needs to be brought into line in a more energy efficient way. The second is blending, so using hydrogen and RNG to replace the natural gas that's currently running through our system. We think that's really key to help meet our state's climate goals. The third is hybrid systems, right? So I myself, am putting in a clean heat pump right now. I'm still going to have a gas furnace in my basement as a backup, and we expect a lot of our customers to go that route over the course of the next few decades. And then the fourth is geothermal and targeted electrification. We know there are customers out there who their furnace has come to the end of its life and they want to put in a clean heat pump, and we want to help them do that. And so we think those 4 pillars will help us meet that clean heat vision that I mentioned, but hydrogen is really going to be a very important part of that story. And the whole reason we're doing this is not only do we want to green our system, but we want to maintain a really great workforce that has been working in this distribution system for decades. We want to continue to provide affordable power for our customers, and we want reliable and resilient power, and we want to continue to use this existing infrastructure to the best of our abilities. So we're really excited about it, and we're excited about the role that hydrogen can play in that future.
That's great.
And
That's
also
exciting
Southern
to hear.
Company headquarters
I do want to dig in a little bit on the
Southern
hubs,
Company
because I
gas
think that was the main
headquarters
topic that we really wanted to
So
talk
Atlanta's a
about
big
today.
spot for the
And so
Southern
pivoting to that, can you talk a little bit
Lots of senior folks
more
and lots of people
about
in the
how
state of
Grid
Georgia.
is getting involved, how National Grid is getting
There were some of the
involved
Georgia
in
Power folks at the
the
EIP
New York
event.
Hub
EIP event.
Alliance.
2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
so this
Were
is
you- that
something
was in
that came
industrial
together
electrification?
under the leadership of NYSERDA. We're very
Was it from
excited
your-
about it.
was it
There's I
folks
think
from the key
over
accounts
40
team?
partners now
Remember?
that are part of this
believe so.
alliance,
Okay.
some like our peers,
I'm
Con
trying to
Ed,
remember the names
but
of the
also
attendees
others
there,
in
but-
industry,
Andy
right?
had
Plug
folks go
Power is
through
another
an
partner, a
exercise
longtime
where
partner
for
of ours
each
who's
of
going to
the
be part of this hub
decarbonization
opportunity.
technologies, they
Also
picked
looking at governments
the
and
right
then
customer,
academia, a
how
lot
do
of
you
local
approach
universities
them?
and colleges will
And
be part of it.
it was
And then
one of the guys, I
finally,
think,
and
from
certainly
Georgia
last
Power
but
who
not least,
decided
labor,
that
right? We
a
need
bourbon
these
distillery would be the
unions to
ideal
help us
Honda
build
customer.
out this hub
And they went
infrastructure to
down
help
one.
us
Well, they used a lot of
move this
steam.
project forward. And so we're
How do
really
you
excited that
sell
we've
to
kind of
them?
all
What
come
do you
together to put
Was that
forth
a
what we
good,
think is a really attractive
experience
proposal for
overall?
DOE
That was
and an application
Yeah,
for
it's good
hydrogen.
because the
That was going to
level
be
of
my next question,
engagement that
because
Andy
not all of
created
these hub
and the
plans or
level of
hub
engagement
alliances
from
are
folks who were
necessarily
there was really
immediately
remarkable.
focused on putting in
I
an
didn't know
application to
that
DOE. As I mentioned,
there's a utility
there
in
are
southern
at least 4 that will be
Texas,
selected.
and I think
There's
it's true in
$8 billion.
Louisiana as well, where
$8 billion
petrochemicals
divided by
that are
divided by 4
exported to
doesn't.
Europe
It is
are
quite a
now
bit of money to
facing
get things
the
started, but you don't
European
want to be
carbon
dividing it
border
by
adjustment.
16
So
or
there's
something.
real
So
interest in
it's great to hear that New
decarbonizing
York
the
is
electricity
thinking
supply
about putting
and
an application
transitioning the
in.
energy supply for those industries.
Can you talk about the other
Even though there's no
entities that
local
are
carbon
in
price, there's a
the Hub
product value
Alliance
and
with
interest
you,
in it.
and kind of how you all are working
Who wouldn't have
together?
thought of those
We
commodity
Yeah, so we're
producers
having
as
regular
serving
meetings, of
European
course, with
markets,
our
like
regulators, with
construction.
our peer utilities, with our partners in the hub, weekly meetings. We have internal teams that are really focused on this effort. And I think we've recognized kind
Mark,
of
have you
what
been
each
to-
of
I
us
know we've
brings
had
to the
some,
table,
but
right?
you've
We
been
really
to the
see
VIP a
ourselves
lot
as a very
in the past, but have you
creditworthy
been to any of
off-taker
our
for
events?
this
No,
hydrogen we
coming
hope to be
to
produced.
the
We also
Utah
have a
event.
significant
Okay.
clean
Please
energy
don't come
resource
until
in the
the
Northeast.
second day,
We,
not the first day.
along
I
with
got
many
called
other
to
utilities in the
the
region, as
Electrification
well as some
Conference
European partners,
on Wednesday,
have
so
all
I'll
bid
be
into these
in
offshore wind
Utah
leases,
on
right? So we have
Wednesday
about
night,
38
Thursday, and
gigawatts
Friday.
already
And
of
you'll be there,
potential
right, Duncan?
offshore
I'm there, yes.
leases
I'm
that have been
there.
signed, with up to
What is the
25 more
Electrification
gigawatts of offshore
Yeah,
wind
so the Electric Power
leases
Research
that could be,
Institute
potentially
hosts a
signed in the
conference,
next
I
few
think it's a
years. And so we see that as a
biannual
huge resource
the
and one that we're
timeframe
all
has been
very
a little
clued
bit
in
more
on. We really see that the Northeast Hub is green hydrogen. That's where we're headed, and see the offshore wind piece as a big part of that. And so I think, as a group, we're working together, recognizing each other's strengths, recognizing what each of us can bring to the table, and that's made for a really fruitful partnership.
Great.
Thank you. It's very
it'll be my first
interesting to
time,
hear the green hydrogen
Where's that? Is
concept,
that in
which
Hello?
for
This
those
is
who are not
Charlotte.
familiar
So
with
Duke
hydrogen that
Energy
is
is the
produced
host,
using
and
renewable
then Southern
electricity
is the
to
host,
power
and
an
24.
electrolysis process which splits water into
And is there a
hydrogen and
particular
oxygen.
area of
In
electrification focus? Is
IIJA,
it
one of the
transportation
requirements,
or
at least
industry?
one of
Okay.
the hubs that's selected, include fossil fuel.
I've never been, but I've
as,
heard it's a
one
pretty
of the fuel sources
Yeah,
for
so the first
producing
one was in
hydrogen
Paris, so I think
of
this is
the
the second
nearly
one.
20
Okay. Then
hub
maybe
alliances
this one
and
may have been
plans that I
delayed several
mentioned.
years
It
because
was.
I think this
One
was going
in
to take
North
place
Dakota, where
back
we
in 2020.
possibly could
Yeah,
see
it's supposed
maybe
to
a
be-
fossil
so
fuel
Charlotte was supposed to
derived
happen in 2020.
hydrogen
It's supposed to be
There's also
Atlanta in
one.
22.
There are
Okay.
multiple actually
Now
down
we're
along
delayed.
Yeah,
the Gulf
Charlotte
Coast
in
region,
22.
one which is my
And
favorite called
Southern
Halo.
was
It's
Savannah in 24.
hydrogen,
So
Arkansas,
did they just not
Louisiana,
happen? They didn't happen.
Oklahoma.
They just
There are a
didn't
couple
happen.
in
Yeah, just
Texas
didn't happen.
because Texas is going to do its own thing.
Just didn't happen.
And then
great to
there are
see
some
things
in the
going again,
Pacific
although
Northwest,
I've been
as well as a
traveling
number kind of
every
along
other week.
the eastern seaboard and
I said to my
and
wife
the
the other
east-
day,
on the
I'm
east
starting
coast.
to miss
So it'll be very
lockdowns.
interesting to kind of see
And I'm
how
out of the
too.
habits. I
the
mean, it takes me
hydrogen
longer to pack now. I don't have my
proposals
routine
developed, and
down.
really how DOE works
I have to
it all out.
relearn my
I
in-person
guess maybe
social
one
skills
last
when people's
question for
name
you,
isn't
Emily,
sitting
so
right
we've
in
got a
front
I
of
couple
you
just
on
hit
the
left
premier
is
status
what
again. It's just like,
lessons
oh no, this tells me
learned
I'm
or
living the wrong
takeaways
way.
you would pass
exactly.
along to other electric companies
Not to
that
mention,
are
before
thinking
COVID, I had
about
zero
or
children.
are
Now I have a
pursuing
2-year-old and
either
a
a
4-month-old.
DOE hub
Oh,
proposal
congratulations.
It's amazing,
Yeah,
but
that's-
it's all
projects,
a whole
and I
new.
should mention Grid is just one
introduces a whole
of
new
really a
Yeah, a whole new
number of
new
our
travel.
members
Yeah, for sure.
who are very actively pursuing
Yeah, I spent
hydrogen
a lot of my kids'
projects
younger
and
years
plans,
commuting to
and
Asia,
it
and
really
it was really,
almost
sort
runs the
of
gamut
gone
in
about
terms
half
of
time,
the
which
types
I
of
really
projects
wish I
that
had.
are
Yeah.
being pursued. We have folks that are looking at
Don't do
nuclear
that.
to hydrogen. We have
Where's
a
your travel to?
timber
Long
company
flights.
that's working
Mostly
on
domestic.
one of the national
Before,
labs on
it's
a
hard to say
wind to
what the new
hydrogen
normal
project.
is
We've
as
got
things
a number
resume.
of
But before, a
members
lot of my
like
travel was
National
driven by
Grid who
visiting
are thinking
our utility
about
partners in person.
how to blend hydrogen in
talking to
their
their
existing
business
gas
units
systems and
there,
use
what's going
hydrogen
on in
for
their
heat
world and
purposes.
how that
So,
relates to what we're doing
Emily,
in
I'm
the
sorry, I
ERP.
actually
So,
sort of
anywhere
talked over my own
utilities are
question,
looking
but
at
lessons
Birmingham
learned
a
or
couple of weeks
takeaways.
ago, it
That's
was-
totally fine.
go to
I'm
St.
glad
Louis
you're
a
the one
lot
to
to
define
see
green
them.
hydrogen and not me.
And then I'm based
So,
in Atlanta, so I
we
travel
really
to
view
New
this as a
York
process.
office
So
a
we've
lot
been working on
for-
this for a
What was
number
your
of
background
years.
before you started
And so
doing this?
started in kind of the research
Started
and
my career
development
with
phase.
Brattle
We've
Group,
put in millions of dollars into
energy-
this,
well,
and there's
not
lots of
energy-
research and
not
development
exclusively
going on in the
energy-focused
Northeast.
consultancy,
I
but
mentioned that
small
we're
economic
partnering
consultancy.
with academia as part of the hub. We have a
Did a lot of
partnership with
sort of
Stony Brook
market design
University where we've been
evaluation,
looking at
utility
blending
rate case
and the
support,
impacts
that
that
kind of
blending
stuff is where I learned
hydrogen
the ropes in the
can have on
industry.
various pipe
And then
materials.
business school, and
We
then
feel
got
pretty
into,
confident that we can blend up to
an innovation
20%
and growth role at a company
hydrogen
called
by volume in our
Converge
pipes
that
without
does,
folks having to
residential
switch
demand
out their
software,
appliances at
hardware
home.
services
And
for
so we're
utilities.
testing that theory with Stony Brook, right? And
So
this
got
is
really
one in a
into,
number of studies that
demand
we've been doing
management
with
issues
DOE, with
Aggregating
local
lots of
universities.
water heaters to
The
create-
second piece of it, right, is
It's
demonstration.
mostly,
So we actually
HVAC,
have a demonstration
equipment,
project
so,
called Hygrid that we're very
innovations
proud of,
before
one of the
IoT
earliest ones in the
existed,
country we
Converge
just
invented
unveiled,
or engineered
where
the,
we will
like,
be blending
product
hydrogen,
that could interrupt
and the hopes
load
are
to
that we
the
will
air
be able to
conditioning unit
heat
via, like, a
up
paging
to a
signal.
little over 800 homes
Now, of course, that world's been-
off Long
yeah.
Island
Now,
or
of
in
course,
Long
that world's
Island
been
with this
transformed
blended
by the
hydrogen, and then
existence
also
of,
using it to fuel commercial
connected
vehicles
thermostats and
for
all
the
of that,
town.
and send us signals
So,
through very
I
different
think we're kind of
channels
slowly
and
making
know
our
that
way
they're being
to the
received,
proof point,
but it
right,
used
which
to
is
be a
hopefully
game
going to be the
of
hydrogen
stick
hub
an
and seeing this
interruptible,
all
stick a
in
a
action. So
switch,
I would say that's kind of
power
one
to
lesson we've learned is that this
compressor
is really a process,
on there and
and
send
so we
paging
are
signal,
excited
have that
to get to the
happen.
point where we can really
Used
prove
to a
this
funny
out.
story. People would
I
get
think
on
the second
message
thing I'll
boards and
say
say, "Hey, you
is,
can get
we've
the
had
utility
lots of
incentive
conversations
if
with the
you just let
Department of
them come
Energy, and
install
one of
it
the
and then
things we
wrap the
keep
thing
hearing
in
over and over
tinfoil."
again is kind of buzzword that they've been using is catalytic. They really want to see all of the funding that comes out of IIJA to be catalytic. They want to create markets, they want to create projects that are enduring and that lead to other projects, right?
It was a big
They don't want to see
learning
this as kind of like a
experience
one shot in
working
the
in that
arm and then you're
industry, 'cause at
done.
the
They
time,
want to see this as an
historically, you're
ongoing
selling something
effort.
that utilities weren't
And so
sort of
we really are
legally
trying to embrace
interested
that.
in
We
because
see National Grid as
the
one part
alternative
of
is to
this
build
hub. We see it as an
generation to meet
ecosystem.
that
We're not,
peak
it's
load,
not the National Grid hub.
and
It's by
when
no
you're
means
selling a
one
product
entity's
that,
hub, right? It is
when it's
a
an
group of us
opportunity,
working
so
together
it's
to
not-
create a
not
real hydrogen
inherently
ecosystem that we
attractive
play a part in happen. And the goal is to build out an entire system with off-takers, with inputs, whether it be offshore wind or some other form of renewable energy. And it's something that can serve communities in a variety of ways. There's lots of different uses for it. And so I think for us, that's really been a lessons learned, is how can we really, rising tide raises all boats. How can we work together? How can we make this project a reality so it benefits our customers and our communities? And it's something that can then be catalytic and become a proof point for others across the country. So we're really excited about it.
That's great. Well, I think rising tides lifts all boats is a great place to leave this.
Yep.
So thank you so
And
much.
he'll be
Emily.
on
It's
stage
great
with me for
to
the
talk
first
to you about
half,
this today
the
and learn
long
more
duration
about
storage, and he'll be on stage with me for the
hydrogen.
second half.
Thanks so much for having me.
industrial decarbonization.